It's easy to see why people are abiding by those evacuation orders. You can see all the devastation left behind from Helene here on Paso Grill Beach. All of this sand came onto the street after that record level storm surge just poured into the neighborhood, and that sign says it all: extreme danger, do not enter. I want to whip you around here so you can see the conditions on the water. It is incredibly choppy, and the storm surge is going to be a problem. We can still see Helene's mark very visible. 2 weeks ago, you may be able to see in the distance those two boats washed on shore. What we're learning right now is that fire crews are trying to see if there are any additional victims and if there were other people on board the plane in addition to the pilot. So they are starting that slow and careful process of combing through the wreckage to see if there's any additional victims. And they're also on site monitoring hot spots to keep the fire from reigniting. While affordable housing has been a very hot topic, and as the project stands right now, 1,200 units would be set aside for affordable housing, but developers would be given a very generous timeline because it could be 20 years before all those housing units are complete. So that is the driving force between today's demonstration here with the St. Pete Tenants Union. They are making their voice heard. They've been doing so for the last year, along with the Sierra Club and Faith in Florida. From spoiled food in the fridge to water damage, residents haven't been able to recover. It's been on hold for 3 weeks. This 16-story building completely vacant. Residents scrambling to find a place to live.
Oh, goodbye, but it's just a big hit.
Tonight, James Schold torn with devastation and despair. The doors of his South Pasadena apartment complex still locked ever since Helene's relentless surge poured in. You've been homeless?
Yeah, I've been homeless for 3 weeks.
Schold paying out of pocket for hotels, but options are limited.
The first one I went to had a big sign stating not accepting FEMA vouchers. Most of us are on Social Security.
I'm like a drowning man reaching for a straw.
Hubert Hensley also in a bind. His car stagnant in the parking lot, a total loss in the flood.
You can't get in. Nobody will tell you anything. I got clothes. Thank God I left with my medicine that I take.
In a letter to residents, Hayes Gibson Property Services stated access to the building has been blocked off by order of the city due to lack of power and water.
Friday is fine.
Today, residents finally getting answers. They'll have a short window to get some of their items this week, but tonight, Schold still asking more questions.
Is there any idea as to whether we may be able to move back in one day?
So starting tomorrow, residents will have a 1 to 2 hour window to get some of their items. But again, without power, there's no working elevator, so they'll have to leave their furniture behind. Only 5 families will be allowed inside at a time, and they'll have to sign a waiver to get in. It only took firefighters about 45 minutes to battle the flames, but their work is far from over. They'll continue to stay out here throughout the night and monitor any hot spots. But it was a very frantic scene around 2:30 this afternoon when 911 calls came in reporting a fire that sparked on the roof. We're told that no one was hurt, but a total of 16 units are completely destroyed. So several families without a home. About 9 workers were on top of the roof at the time. They were all able to get down safely. Tragedy that's really shaken this entire St. Pete community. Friends, family, neighbors gathering out here. Many still learning the news that an 11-year-old boy was shot and killed. Police say it was an accident. The devastation is on full display. Homes turned inside out, a lifetime of belongings, now heaps of trash. Many neighbors say they're familiar with the flooding being on the edge of Kings Bay, but this storm was different. HOB Brewing found a creative way to beat the curfew by making the hefty investment to build this overhang. Once it was in place, this was no longer considered an outdoor area. We took her complaints to the property managers of Venture Rental Apartments. They said they are aware about the situation, but no word on a solution. And tonight, there's worried conditions are getting worse. Tonight, roof damage from Milton's Wrath on full display. High winds ripped the shingles off Kimberly Alexander's Bradenton apartment, leaving this gaping hole in her bedroom.
Yeah.
Recover from the storm.
No, I can't.
It's been 4 weeks since the storm hit. Panels of insulation hang from the ceiling, her furniture caked with residue from drywall. And when it rains, her problems get worse, her patience wearing thin.
Even start something. Just start something to keep out the birds, keep out the bats, keep out the insects, and all of that. Just keep that out.
Kimberly called the property manager right after the storm, but the damage still hasn't been addressed.
But start something. Don't say nothing. And don't tell me nothing. Give me answers, because I deserve answers.
We tried getting answers as well, making our way to the Bayshore and Venture rental office, but walked away with more questions. The staff says they're unable to discuss details about the site.
I told her, I'm praying for you. Something's going to happen. I'm not going to give up.
Tonight, a Good Samaritan is stepping in, but worried.
We're going to get a lot of rain, though. There's going to be mold. That's going to be even more dangerous. Diseases. There's a number of things that can happen, and it's completely unsafe.
Another day with no solution.
Fix a roof, or tarp it, or temporary fix it, because this is where we live.
We took Kimberly's concerns to the county as well. They said that the damage wasn't initially spotted during their drive-by assessment, but it's ultimately up to the property owner to make repairs. Well, criminals are actually meeting the requirements to file quitclaim deeds, but they're using fraudulent documents to do so, making it very difficult to catch.
You're on the deed?
Well, yeah, we had an agreement years ago, and we've been having
False claims caught on camera. Michelle Cherry trying to convince police she's the owner of a house that isn't hers, but her name on the deed of the property.
I'm on the current deed.
Where's the deed?
I believe I have a copy in the car.
12 days later, she's in handcuffs. She's accused of quietly stealing a house that actually belongs to the Bilbys. They've owned the home for nearly 40 years.
We were constantly on edge because they constantly returned to the home. And lo and behold, 3 o'clock on a Saturday, I said, they're there now, please go. So he went and the police went, and she very calmly said, this is my home, with my husband standing there.
The weapon is the paperwork.
State Attorney Susie Lopez says criminals are getting creative.
She changed the address on her driver's license to this home. She put the utilities in her name. At least she's looking at almost 3 centuries in prison for committing these crimes. 275 years.
Traffic, noise at the towers could block the view. Just some of the concerns that we heard last week. That marathon meeting wrapping up at 2:30 a.m. last Thursday without a resolution. So tonight, many people hoping to finally get some answers. Yes, Milton, changing the face of St. Pete and the most iconic landmark in the city. I really do, and that sentiment has actually been echoed throughout the area. Pinellas County Sheriff also saying such, and closing down access to the barrier island. So it is very quiet out here at Treasure Island right now, and this is the devastation left behind from Helene 2 weeks ago. You can see that record level storm surge. Details about the penalties are actually pretty unclear. Lawmakers expected to hammer that out when they return next year, but attorneys say if those inspections aren't complete, everyone sitting on the board could face legal consequences because of it. Yes, many will try to sell, many may not be able to do so. So from homes to businesses like long-standing iconic restaurants like Woody's Waterfront, the daunting tasks to rebuild almost too difficult to bear, including for one woman who's lived in her St. Pete Beach home for decades.
I've lived in this house since I was 11, and now it's all got to be gutted out.
A lifetime of memories, now heaps of trash.
Everything is destroyed, going to the curb.
Jody Powell has lived in her St. Pete Beach home for more than 50 years, but just one storm destroyed everything.
My dad built, he's a World War II Marine veteran, he built this bar. It's solid wood. It's just flipped over. Filth came up from the sewage too.
Jody evacuated the barrier island before the hurricane, her neighbor capturing this video of her home when fast-moving floodwaters moved in, climbing 4 feet.
The waves just came in off of the 130 feet of waterfront we got in the back.
What was it like being so far away, watching the destruction and not being able to do anything about it?
You feel helpless, overwhelmed. You know, it's devastating.
The house already a financial burden, covering sky-high property taxes, a challenge.
I've had to pay just under $16,000 for 1 year. How am I going to pay that when I got all this to deal with?
Jody's future uncertain, facing more difficult decisions in the days ahead.
And I was just diagnosed with breast cancer, and just before all this hit. So it's overwhelming. It's a lot to take. You know, they say God only gives you enough that you can take. Well, I really can't take any more.
It's unfortunate, but yes, especially those with Citizens. One homeowner doing everything he can to lower his rate, but his premium continues to go in the wrong direction.
I have full 3/4 inch plywood that covers this whole window sliding glass door.
James Toth has owned his St. Pete home for nearly 60 years, passionate about stormproofing his home, but it hasn't helped with his insurance premium.
I've done everything humanly possible to protect my house, but my insurance rates keep going up.
From bolted windows for plywood,
5/16 stainless steel bolts,
to the bolts that anchor down his porch awning. Home hardening has been a priority, his policy with Citizens, and now he's at risk of getting dropped. If you get dropped by Citizens, what are you going to do?
At this point, I don't know.
It's a concern that has Toth crunching numbers, especially after seeing a sharp 30% spike in his premium over the last 2 years.
We have had homeowners insurance for going on 57 years and have never filed a claim against our insurance companies, but our rates keep going up.
Citizens making it clear they're cutting customers to minimize risk. 8 on Your Side obtaining these records, showing more than 132,000 policies have been dropped since January. Rob Samuels is the Vice President of Personal Insurance with the Horton Group.
Citizens does not want to be an attractive choice for consumers. They truly want to be the carrier of last resort.
Steep increases.
Oh, yeah.
Toth now worried about the future of insurance coverage and if his family will have the ability to cover the cost.
They're not going to be able to afford to live here.
But tonight, Cardacia Benson is even more worried about the possibility of black mold and how it could affect the health of her family.
In here is where the mold is.
Every step inside Cardacia Benson's Lakeland apartment comes with a stench and a sight she says is almost too much to bear. The mother of 2 grappling with growing mold that continues to seep into her clothing, walls, and carpet.
This is killing us slowly, and we're breathing this in, and that it's very toxic. Like, this is poisonous.
Now, her grandmother stepping in, calling 8 on Your Side for help.
I'm terrified over this. The boys are so young that they have to go through and breathe this stuff.
I have 2 kids disabled. I have an autistic child, and I have another child that's, he suffers seizures really bad.
Cardacia says her calls to the management company have been mishandled, so she took her complaints to code enforcement. The first violation notice to the Wilmington apartments back in August reports a black growth-like substance on the interior walls. Then, within the last month, code enforcement citing Wilmington apartments once again. This notice also reporting a black-like substance on the interior wall, surfaces, and door. I went to the Wilmington apartment leasing office during their business hours today, but the office was closed. In the meantime, Cardacia sounding the alarm about her situation, worried her living condition will continue to persist.
I thought this would have been a fresh start for me and my kids, but it's been horrible.
And of course, we'll continue to follow up with the apartment complex and code enforcement to learn more about this situation and next steps in the process. In the newsroom, Linnie Supal, 8 on Your Side.